Welcome, guys. We are so appreciative that you're joining us. Is everybody from the East Coast, West Coast, no coast? Where are we at? We got Jersey. Where else do we have? We'd love to hear from you. Jersey in the house. Germany, we love you. Welcome. All right. Anyone from anywhere else? North Carolina, LA. Woo! Good morning, LA. Caesar, thank you for coming. Good morning. Caesar, are you drinking coffee or tea with us? This is like the perfect conversation for coffee or tea, right, Devan? Yeah.
That's a good idea, though. I love that.
Yes, honey, go get it. Go, run. This is, though, guys, like these conversations are beautiful ways to start your morning and afternoon. That's okay, Louise. We have Ireland, we have Germany. So good afternoon, good evening. We love that you're here. I am a complete global soul. Ask anybody who knows me. And so we're grateful you're here. And please, cozy up, because we love to keep it open and we love dialogue and conversation and feedback. We committed in the beginning, we've been doing this for over a year, to not be talking heads and to have this be your time to really engage with us as well. So we will totally put you on the spot, beware. And there's no shame in my game. Plus, how else can we connect and get to know what other beautiful souls are out here? Michael, how are you feeling?
I'm doing really well. Just getting all my I's crossed and T's dotted. So
okay, you let us know when you're ready.
I'm ready to go.
Let's do it. Cool, guys. So we don't want to keep you waiting. We want to respect your time. And we are so grateful that you joined us on this Saturday. My name is Suzanne Buchanan. I'm a career communications specialist, and I love bringing people together for powerful conversations that matter. I've done it for the United States Department of Justice. I've done it living and working overseas in the international development field. I've done it for companies who need to get their shit together. So, and today we're doing it on a beautiful level, personal growth and development field, something that's passionate to my heart. And I know I'm here with my partner in crime, Michael Dancliffs. Michael, do you want to introduce yourself for a second?
Absolutely. So my name is Michael Dancliffs. I'm up here in the Northeast part of the United States. I call myself a life vision outfitter. I like working with people to elevate their lives in a way that's intentional and purposeful. Because I know many times I've fallen into this trap of living life in a rut, and the rut doesn't always necessarily go to where we want to. Many times it actually takes us off the cliff. So that's really kind of my perspective. I've come out of IT and now working from instead of the head, now working on the heart and the soul. So my purpose in life is to refine intentionally authentic leaders. And Suzanne and I have really wanted to engage in these conversations to elevate the world one conversation at a time, and do it from this place of it being a conversation, not us just a bunch of talking heads. So we appreciate you being here and being part of the dialogue and part of the conversation.
Awesome. Devan is with us today, and we try to bring in specialists who are walking the walk and who can be really that force, who are 3 steps ahead for us to look to, who are practicing walking, but also who have their energy in the right place. So Devan, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background, please?
Yes, thank you for having me again. This is the 3rd time I've been with you guys now, I think, and it's been maybe 4th actually, guys. So for those of you who don't know, I'm Devan Bailey. I run an executive coaching and training organization. Essentially, I work with folks who are highly successful but missing that piece of life, which is something called fulfillment. I firmly believe, having spent a long time in the corporate world, chasing money and success and all of those measures of significance that leave us feeling insignificant, I've realized that success without fulfillment is actually the ultimate failure. So I now work with individuals to help them not only to continue to succeed and have an impact in the world, but to enjoy the process. I focus a lot on what I call kind of emotional freedom, and the fact that actually, despite what's going on around us, we do get to choose how we feel and how we show up. So I focus a lot on mindset and beliefs, which we're going to be talking about today, is a cornerstone of a lot of the work I do with my clients.
Awesome. Thank you. So guys, we're gonna have a conversation, and we want you to be a part of it for sure. We want you to use the chat box also, but then at the end, we want to just shut up and like have dialogue with you. So you do not have to reserve your comments to the end. You can pop them in the chat throughout. And again, this is your process. But today we came here to talk about beliefs. And, it's towards the beginning of the year. It doesn't feel like it, right? It feels like it's like off and running, but we still have 10 months to go strong. And we're laying a foundation for our growth this year. And we thought that this would be a perfect opportunity to talk about beliefs. And Michael, I wanted to see if you were interested in really talking about why we chose it and what definition of belief are we even talking about?
So I guess for me, I know that a fair number of people here are from the Lifebook community. So this idea of what your beliefs are, your premise is around the different categories of our life, I thought was really important for us to have another place where we can discuss this. It's certainly part of the process, but it's one of the steps that, and sometimes one of the barriers for us to really create that vision in our life, depending on which way that our beliefs go. So for some people, your beliefs is what you believe as part of a spiritual practice or a religion. For me, this is as much about what I believe is true in the world, what is true about me, and what is true about my interactions with the world. And that really kind of sets the stage for kind of the underlying programming for whether we take a particular action or not. It's the filter that our thoughts tend to pass through before we take action. And sometimes is that little voice in our head that actually says, no, you can't do that, or yes, you can. So it's a matter of listening to that and being aware of what that is. So, and I think that's why I wanted to do this really, deep dive discussion into this.
Yeah, and I know, Devan, you have some powerful thoughts around beliefs, how you define them. Do you want to share them?
Yeah, please. I think to define it best for me, we need to go back to childhood. So let's just make up a little story for a second and pretend that we are, 5 or 6 years old, and we hear mum and dad arguing. Sure, many of us have experienced that, don't feel very good. And let's pretend they're arguing behind a closed door, and we happen to hear that they're arguing about money, everyone's favorite topic, right? In that moment, our impressionable mind is recording everything about that experience, including the meaning that we attach to it. It's pretty obvious and pretty common that we would attach some kind of meaning to that, like money's bad, money causes problems, there's never enough of it, it's hard to make, you name it. And the reason that's important is we take that meaning with us. So the next time we hear the subject of money come up, because our brain is this amazing survival mechanism, it says, quick, what do we know about this thing? And it concludes with lightning speed. Oh, money, it's hard to make, causes problems, drives a wedge in relationships, et cetera, et cetera. And there you go, you reinforce it. And those meanings over time that become reinforced are our beliefs. The best definition I've heard for a belief is that a belief is a feeling of absolute certainty about what something means. And mostly they're programmed in unconsciously by our environment. We absorb them from people, places, and things around us. But the key distinction that I discovered in recent years is if it's rooted in meaning, don't we get to choose what something means? Can't we choose a different meaning anytime we experience it? And that's where this consciousness becomes relevant. So you can actually intervene in any given moment and think, why am I feeling this way? What am I butting up against? And make a different decision. Decide that something means something different and shift your beliefs accordingly.
Yes, so much yes. Michael, I know you have a question to ask people.
Right. So, and this is one of the things that I know that we're going to be kind of touching on today a fair amount is, when was the last time that you really examined your beliefs? You actually got them off the shelf where they've been stored for a while, unpacked them, and actually pulled them apart and figured out, where does this come from? So, Devin, for you, what would you say is the time that you've really kind of examined those beliefs?
This morning, honestly, and it's not some grand process where I sit down with a piece of paper and pull the program out of my brain and tweak it. I know, or I've decided, I make up that anytime I feel a negative emotion, and by the way, there's like 6,000 words in the dictionary to describe different emotions. I think there's only two. One feels good, one feels bad. And I generally want to feel good as much as I can, because then I'm a nice guy and I don't want to feel bad and feel a contracted state. I've decided that when I feel bad, I'm thinking something shitty. And I know that beliefs throw off these thoughts that we have. Therefore, I must be butting up against some kind of disempowering or limiting belief. So I choose anytime I'm in a negative state to actually go inward and say, what are we butting up against here? What do we think about this situation that is causing us to feel this way, and challenge it? It's not a documented process necessarily. It's just something I do real time regularly to try and root out those rotten program files.
Got it. So, Suzanne, for you, when was the last time you kind of unpacked this and picked at it?
It is for me, every time I feel myself holding back, every time I catch myself sabotaging my success, every time I pause, am I reflecting on something or am I scared? What do I believe about this situation? Every time I squirm, why am I uncomfortable?
Yeah.
Why didn't I go for it? There's so many questions we can be asking ourselves, but behind all of these moments of pauses, hesitations, ifs, buts, excuses, guys, that's our signal. That's our GPS. Those pauses, those moments of holding back, that's our signal. Let's examine our operating system. Are we running on a false belief? Do I believe that do I believe I'm too much? I won't be able to handle it. I'm not enough. They'll reject me. Where are we coming from, guys? And there's so many micro moments. Really, for me, it's in these micro moments where, there's big things that we know we're holding back and we want to kick our own butt. And that's also massive, belief tracking we need to do. But also, let's work on those micro ones first to get that muscle going where we are actually identifying and reflecting quickly. And guys, you get faster and faster at this process where, I'm holding back. What are we thinking here? It's this faulty belief. And then you pick it up and you say, hello, I see you. And you drop that shit off because it doesn't serve you. So that's kind of where I'm at. It's a lifelong process, loves. Like, it's okay. It's okay. And we are not here because we're through it and perfect. We're here because we've decided we're going to get through it. We're okay, we're aware, and we can help bring awareness to others along the way.
Absolutely. And I would say that my observation has been some people can really intuitively navigate this landscape, and others really need more tools to be able to work through that and actually have actions to take. And it's one of the things that I know that Lifebook really kind of instills is, if you don't have this skill, here's some resources you can use to get there. And it is, one of those things of, is it something you're doing in a meditation? Are you doing it in a therapy session? Are you doing it with a coach? Are you doing it on a walk? Is, really kind of examining this and the processes that we go through. So I think it's really important to acknowledge the fact what Suzanne said is that this is an ongoing process, but I believe it's also a skill, meaning that you get better at it over time to examine these beliefs. So Suzanne, how do you actually identify what your beliefs are then?
Well, I kind of just stumbled into it before. It takes that moment of reflection and, self-awareness. Guys, we have to be able to be in touch with ourselves enough to understand where we're sabotaging ourselves or where we're simply not stepping up enough. The word sabotage may sound extreme, but these little moments can add up over time. And so for me, that process is an ongoing process for me. Meditation allows that space for me. For me, when I do yoga, I also go into a meditative state. So that's part of my process. But I think it's really tracking your goals and looking at where things are not happening. Because every one of those moments is something for us. And I would love to know from our guest here also, do you have a process in your life where you examine your goals? For many of you in Lifebook, that gives you the structure, but then where do you fit it in?
Absolutely. And I think that in the community, it tends to be on that quarterly cadence or that monthly cadence.
And is that enough?
Sometimes it is, and sometimes it's
Right?
not.
But if you're catching yourself daily, like where are we tracking those things? And then what is that micro awareness that we need? So.
It looks like, Caesar, you have your hand raised here. Did you have something to contribute at this time?
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that, Michael. I didn't want to interrupt because I was picking a little bit off of what everything said, and I kind of like to ask the question almost to everybody else in the group. For me, the biggest challenge is not navigating myself through it, but catching myself in the emotion when it happens. I had a
Yes.
situation yesterday, got a little emotional, and if I knew at that moment that it was my limiting belief that was acting out, I would have been able to guide myself through the process better, taking a step back, try to do something. But I'm just wondering how to first catch it. And I do like what you said. Just thinking of it as good or bad emotion. I was like, oh, that was a light bulb that kind of lit up. I'm like,
Yes.
maybe I can use something there. But yeah, I just feel like that's my biggest challenge. And I wonder if others also have that challenge, just knowing when to catch it or happening.
I'm going to step
Yeah.
up and answer for everyone here and say, buddy, we all have it because we're all human. And I don't care who you are, where you are, what you've achieved. This is part of the human condition. So you're in good company, my friend.
Devan, you want to talk just a little bit more about our emotional GPS system?
Yeah, I believe, here we go with that big word belief. I believe that when we feel a negative emotion, that we are having predominant thoughts that are inconsistent with what we want. And I make up that this emotional guidance system we have, which is the best system there is, it's like a flip-flop. If you feel good, you're on the path towards what it is you want. And if you feel bad, maybe you're thinking something that needs a bit of cleaning up. I also believe that the quality of our life is determined by the quality of our thinking. If you feel resistance, if you feel tension, pressure, discord, stress, whatever fancy word you want to use to describe contracting, you've hit a limiting belief of some kind. Who here has anything in their life right now where they feel maybe a little bit of a block, a little bit of stress, a little bit of tension? If all of you don't put your hands up, then you're lying.
Or you're not growing.
Or you're not growing. That means to me, I can only speak from my experience. That means to me that there's something in there that we believe that is incongruent with what we're shooting for. So I think, to respond to Caesar's great point, first of all, let's be gentle with ourselves and realize we are human. We are going to have times when we snap or we react badly or we get overly frustrated. Like, it happens. But also, it's like going to the gym. You know, the more you do it, the better you get at it. And I think it's consciously being aware of how you're feeling and monitoring that. I really do think it's a moment to moment thing. Not like it has to be a full-time job, but we can all bring our attention to how we're feeling if we choose to, and react accordingly rather than, respond wisely rather than react blindly, I like to say.
Yeah. And beyond the GPS, there is the question we can ask ourselves is, what is the story that we're telling ourselves about this? We all have these narratives. And as we said in the beginning, some of our beliefs were influenced by parents, by school, by media, by whatever that is, but they're not really innate and inherent. And so it's really important for us to say, like Devan said, that first feel good or bad, that's your first metric of awareness, saying, okay. And if you feel bad, there's some issue with the belief there, or you're acting in violation of your beliefs, which is another aspect of it as well. So maybe taking the equal opposite action could remedy that. If you go against your beliefs, again, that signal will happen. But also, what are the stories? And if your actions are not in alignment with your goals and your identity, what is the story that you're telling yourself? And that goes back to those bigger questions, those, I'll always be this way. I'll never have money. Making money is hard. Or life is a struggle. These are big overarching things, guys. It's not just about, I believe I can make it. It's really about quality of life factors too. So I wanted to make sure we had that in there.
And the third layer I wanted to kind of tack onto that is that awareness in the moment is a great place if you are aware of it as it's coming up. And sometimes it's a matter of doing that practice afterwards. And I know that there's one of the practices around this that works really well is that as you're actually laying down to go to sleep, play back what happened during the day. And if something came up with a bad emotion that you didn't like, play it out how you wanted it to go. Play it out how you wanted to act or react. And in some ways, it's kind of, we learned from the last time, let's program for the next time how we want to do it. Because the brain doesn't know the difference between the experience you had or visualizing it happening. Yeah. So you can actually visualize your way through the next time that something like that comes up. So then you can actually then say, okay, I am going to be aware the next time that I'm triggered like this. So preparation is a huge aspect for my coaching practice. And that's one of the ways that I do it for myself. There's also this practice that they talk about in Lifebook as well, about having an emotional recipe book, is knowing what your triggers are for the emotions you want, good or bad, and then do your best to add more of the ones of the good emotions you want and eliminate the situations and potentially the people that are going to trigger those emotions that come up. It may take some rewriting of your beliefs on whether that person is foundational to your life or not, though, which is a really difficult process many times. But where do you want to be? Who do you want to be? How do you want to show up?
How do you want to show up, guys? Who do you want to be? Why are you here? These are big ones. And they don't have to be heavy. They're empowering and beautiful and powerful. So we want you to be able to have these tools to move forward with. But before, clearly we're all on this growth curve, right? Before we were here, we were somewhere else with our beliefs. And I want us to be able to get real with you a little bit and talk about, for each of us, when was a time when your beliefs hurt you, or they resulted in you maybe hurting someone you love? Michael, what about you?
So I can think of a couple of instances where that's happened. There's certainly one key turning point for me in my life where a belief of mine of I should be with someone on Valentine's Day. I was dating several people. I was actually doing fairly well in my life, but there's this thing of I'm a romantic person. I should be with someone. And as I was thinking about this, as we were coming into this, it's like also thinking about where your beliefs conflict can cause so much tension in us. And for me, in that particular turning point, I had two very different beliefs. And I wasn't listening to that bad feeling that Devan was talking about. And it's knowing and listen, feeling it is one thing, that bad emotion of whenever you're up against your beliefs, and then taking appropriate action sometimes can be different. And for me, it did lead to catastrophic changes across my life. So the profession that I was actually going into, no longer an option. The friends that I was with disappeared because it didn't matter for me at that point who that person was that I was going to be spending time with that night. And it ended up being this cascade of events that in some ways is, to me, the pinnacle of self-sabotage, because I had so many aspects of my life that then fell away. Now, yes, there is some regret there that I've worked through, but at the same time, I know that I wouldn't be here doing this with the people that I'm doing it with if I didn't go through some sort of crucible that's actually changed what I thought of myself. And the odd part is, though, is that even going through an action that has actually put a label on me that is going to stick, there's other people who believed in me be different than that. And sometimes reconciling that good, bad, or indifferent is also really a challenge of, feeling like you're worthless because you've made a stupid choice, but other people actually believe that you have value to bring them. It kind of then it's this conflict, once again, it's kind of that's why I believe it's so important for us to get really clear on what our beliefs are, so that you don't have this conflict, that you can make stupid choices and still be a good person. I think is actually one of those things that I'm wrestling with.
Thank you for sharing that. Devan, what about you? You ever had a moment where your beliefs hurt you or somebody you love?
Yeah, actually, a pretty significant story comes up for me. Suzanne, I think you may have heard this story. Please indulge me. Where this fundamental belief actually set in motion the next 30 years of my life. And it was crushing, but also allowed me to grow and succeed the way I did. So it both served me and hurt me. I had an interesting childhood, certainly had a very challenging relationship with my father. Don't really have one with him now. And I remember one moment, there was a horrible misunderstanding over some candy. It's just the most silly, ridiculous thing when you look back at it now, but it had a profound impact on me. Long story short, parents have friends over on a Friday evening. kids are allowed to stay up. It's all very fun and exciting. You know, I was 4 years old. I remember it like it was fucking yesterday. And I was offered a chocolate first from this little tray of chocolates, and I took one. And I happened to notice that my favorite one, which I chose, there was one more of that one left on the tray. Okay. So as the tray of chocolates went over to one of the guests, my little brain, bless me, said, oh, I want him to have that chocolate too. So I put my hand up to grab it, to hand it to him. Now, what does that look like when a kid puts a hand up to grab a second chocolate? Clearly, I'm being a little shit and taking a second chocolate. So I just got fucking railed, absolutely railed. And it was, you know how horrifying it is when you're a kid and you just get screamed at in front of a duck. Like I still feel it today. And I remember, this only came back to me, by the way, like last year. I remember being sat on a sofa, sobbing uncontrollably, as of course a kid would. And I remember making such a firm decision. It was like an aha moment for this little 4-year-old Devan. I went, oh, nothing I do is good enough for that man. Okay. And that lived with me for 30 years. But you know what? It really served me in the corporate world, because I was that guy, the insecure overachiever, where nothing was too much trouble. I would work every hour of every day to exceed even the most unreasonable expectations. So that really served me, as well as professional sport and everything else I turned my hand to. The trouble is, 30 years later, I had a crushing nervous breakdown when I couldn't cope anymore. So amazing belief to serve me, actually, in many ways, but also hurt me and people along the way. So that's, I'm glad to say that's now been cast aside. But that definitely hurt me and hurt a lot of people, that belief that nothing I do is good enough. Interestingly, it's not, I'm not good enough. It was specifically nothing I do is good enough, which is just an interesting variation upon the fundamental fear that we're not enough.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Burju is my name. Devan, thank you for sharing. I was wondering, how did you come to that realization? How did you become aware of that? And then how did you change it? Or how is that serving you now? Could you, if it's not too personal, talk a bit about the process?
Yeah, great. There's two things I'd like to share. Interestingly, actually, it was in my home gym about a year ago. I was really struggling with lack of clarity in the business, feeling like I wasn't succeeding. Does that sound familiar? Like nothing I could do was good enough. And I was really feeling like the power, I was well below the line, like the power was draining out of me. And don't ask me why. Probably because I managed to boost my energy by doing a workout, even though I didn't want to. That story came back. I don't know why I'd forgotten it, how I'd forgotten it. I just had completely forgotten it. And when I remembered it, and I realized that the whole thing was over a misunderstanding, I instantaneously realized it wasn't true. Right? Because if you think beliefs are like, this is an analogy I've stolen, I didn't come up with this. Beliefs are like a tabletop. They're only as strong as the legs underneath them. And the legs underneath them are individual pieces of evidence to support the belief. And of course, our brain is always seeking to prove out what we believe. So it's pretty hard to find contrary evidence unless you look for it. But remembering this story, weirdly feeling a great sense of love for my father in that instant, because he's trying to raise a kid who's good. It was just a misunderstanding. It was realizing it was a misunderstanding and knowing what I know about how the brain just applies a meaning, I was instantaneously able to shift it. The second thing I want to share is, as much as I say it's cast aside, it still shows up. It does still show up occasionally. I don't mind admitting that, I'm a happily married man and we have a young baby. Let me just tell you, at this phase in my life, absolutely nothing is about me. And trust me, at home, nothing I do is good enough, right? So it occasionally shows up, but the trick now for me is when I feel that way, I catch it quickly. because I'm familiar with it, and I think, come on, that's not the answer. It's not that nothing you do is good enough. It's just there's lots to be done and there's more on the list. So keep going, buddy. You see, so it was an instantaneous realization that it wasn't true, and then it's continuing the work.
It's like growing the skill, right? That Michael
Yeah.
was talking about earlier. Yeah. Thank you very much for sharing.
Great question. Thank you for asking.
So the one thing I want to point out with that too is this was a perfect example. Is the beliefs that you got that got you this far are not necessarily the beliefs that are going to get you further.
Yeah.
Because that 4-year-old decided on a belief, and we then have an opportunity as we go forward to then decide what beliefs are going to take us to the next phase. And you can choose these. You can discover these as well, and it's a matter of then discerning which ones, learning where they came from and the meaning that we're applying to them. So, and then unfolding that, and then figuring out where we want to go next and what beliefs do we need in order to get there.
Yeah, guys, like, we make this out to be such a laborious thing. Like, do you reflect on your beliefs? Do you whatever? Are you aware of your beliefs? It sounds like such a chore. It sounds like such an uphill thing. Here's like the mind-blowing truth. You can change your belief instantaneously at a moment's notice. And Devan, in his 30 years later or something, suddenly he saw it from, I would call, like a third party perspective almost, and realized, oh, his entire interpretation had been wrong.
Yeah.
And boom. So he did say there's some residual programming that things, because we get in habits, so it comes up a little bit, but he knows now you can choose your beliefs. And when we talk about really goal setting and achieving big visions, that life book vision of your life, instead of saying, let's examine our beliefs and get healthy beliefs, I would look at that endpoint and I would say, for the person to achieve this amazing life, what would they need to believe? This is a little bit backwards, guys. What would they need to believe to have this kick-ass life? And then you look at where you are now with your beliefs, and are they in alignment with where they would need to be to achieve XYZ? Because like Michael said, the ones that have gotten you this far, and like Devan gave us the example, probably won't get you where you need to go. So it's a crazy idea that, like, I would say 99.999% of the world hasn't thought about. You can change your beliefs. So what would happen if you chose to believe in yourself?
Suzanne, I got to jump on this. I couldn't agree more. I literally couldn't agree more. That question of what do I need to believe in order to achieve that, I think it's foundational. And how odd, how few of us ask that question. I don't mind sharing that my goal setting process, I don't like that term. It's more about a kind of productivity system or a target mapping. One of the boxes is, what do I need to believe to do this thing? And I actually write, what do I need to believe? And I don't mean it, and Suzanne, I'd like your thoughts on this. They don't have to be grandiose things like I'm worthy, I'm the best. Well, they could be if that resonates with you. It might just be something soft and gentle, like this is possible for me. Others have done it. Why not me? It could be just something that just shifts it a little bit for you to start to think it's possible for you. That's all. That's going to get the train moving down the tracks.
I'll never forget, I was listening to this video of this Navy SEAL, and he was talking about when he was first like going into the training and, questioning himself. And they said, but did you know did you know, did you believe you would become a Navy SEAL? And he said, I just thought, why not me? And I was like, that's so light and fluffy and sweet and gentle with yourself. He said, why not me? So why the hell not you?
Yeah.
And I loved how it wasn't something big and heavy and pressure. It was like, why not? It's going to be someone. Why not me? So I thought that was a really nice take on that. Love it. All right. Michael. All right. So we just said that we can change our beliefs at any time. And guys in the chat, have you ever tried to change a belief? Like intentionally tried to change a belief? It's kind of human engineering that we're all, I mean, life book is a process. So when you're looking at that, have you ever tried to change belief? And you can come live with us too. We welcome conversation.
Sure. Would you be a little more specific? I feel like that's a very open question because I think for myself, I'm always trying to change my beliefs if I feel they're not serving or they don't give me that good feeling, right?
Yes.
So yeah, so I feel like I'm always trying to do that now.
I think that's fantastic.
So Oscar, is there anyone in particular that you had difficulty like unpacking and changing though?
I think it would have to revolve around love. I think that's where my limiting beliefs are at. So that's where I don't catch myself.
That's a hard one where we have those, and those are usually like childhood root deep and programmed, my friend. You did not give that belief to yourself. I firmly believe that, I think, you know, life happened in a way that instilled that belief in your operating system. Would you agree with that or not?
I do. I think now it has served me a lot. And now I'm just trying to go to groups or meet with people and just be open and talk about it just so I can unpack everything that's inside. It served me in the beginning, but like you guys are saying, it's not going to serve me going forward. So that's what I'm finding out.
Yes. I am intimately familiar with beliefs around love. When we talk about a belief that we've had that have hurt ourselves or hurt others, you know, I definitely have those. For those of you who are not familiar with me, one of the things that set me, you know, you'll find with Michael, Devan, and I, our mess is our message, and that each one of us has been through things that have resulted in tremendous growth. And for me, one of those things is being born with a rare and potentially fatal blood disease. And the stigma of being diseased or feeling not enough or feeling like I will not be able to live the life of my dreams because I've got this thing hanging over me, or probably more accurately felt like something was holding me back. And I definitely, the intimacy part comes up with me, Oscar. I've had that where I'm holding back in relationships because I don't know how bad it's going to get. I don't know the future that I'm going to experience. You know, I'm doing pretty damn well, but there are big things that could happen and I really don't know. So I have like an extra layer of uncertainty that totally makes me insecure when it comes to love and intimacy. And thank God, like every guy I've been in a relationship with, he's like, so, but you know, it comes up and you have to be aware of what those triggers are. Where are we holding back? And good for you, Oscar, for going to groups and talking about it so that we can really come to terms with how we want to show up and what we really believe we deserve. that goes back to beliefs. And I promise you, my friend, you deserve the best. You were born to be loved.
Thank you, Susan. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And you picked a perfect place to come and share with us. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Oscar. Berku, did you have something? Or Burju, I believe is what you said.
Yes, perfect. Thank you. One question and one thing that I'm pondering about, maybe it can create a discussion around it, or I would love to hear your ideas around it. Like the first question that I have is about the old beliefs, new beliefs thing. So this idea of what does that new version needs to believe in order to achieve that life vision, for example. I came to the realization and awareness that my life book is full of beautiful beliefs. It's all written there, like in all category, what I need to believe, what I should be believing, but I'm not believing it, right? So otherwise I would be already living that life vision. So I wonder, how can I make these new beliefs that I really believe them and not just write them, which are sounding beautifully, and like how can I really incorporate that so that it really sticks? Or can I even override the old beliefs without discovering the old beliefs? That's like, how does that work? Like, do I need to get rid of the old beliefs in order to install the new ones? How can I just really install them? Because I feel like the things that are in my book, they are nice, they're beautiful, but you know, it's not a belief that comes from within. Otherwise, I would really be living that life already. So that's one thing. And also,
Can we address that first one? Can we address that first one?
Yes. Okay.
So there's a key word that I heard you say in all of that is these are the beliefs that I should believe.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little bit different than what we're talking about, which is I'm choosing these beliefs. There's a power in the words. The words are distinctive because it's not that you should, it's that I'm choosing these beliefs to get this vision.
Okay.
I could unleash Devan on this one, by the way. Devan, you know, your entry point to this one is talking about decisions. And when Devan talks about decisions, that's about my sweetness, flipping that operating system. Like you said, can I install them? Devan, you want to talk about decisions?
Do you want the soft, gentle answer, or do you want some tough love?
Tough love.
Just fucking decide. Decide who you're going to be, how it's going to be, what you're going to do, and do not stop.
And don't ever forget the cost of not.
When a decision happens, and it can be over the smallest thing, whether or not to eat another scoop of ice cream, whether or not you're going to go to a movie, what it is you want to create in your life, who you want to marry. There's a whole range of decisions. I don't know about you guys, but for me, most people say I'm going to do this really means they kind of fancy it. When you decide, something locks. I actually get a physical sensation. It's almost like, I imagine, like, you know, those safes where you can, like, 3 turns to the left, and suddenly it goes ka-chung. When you've decided, you can't go back. That's it. You're done. So first thing, the tough love thing, you haven't decided.
Yes.
You're flirting with it. You think it's a nice idea. It sounds great. I kind of want that. You need to decide. And that's on you. Just make that decision. I'm making it sound simple. It really is. The second thing, if I may, the slightly softer angle, is as beautiful as the words you've written, is it possible that they're a bit grand? Is it possible that maybe my example earlier of it's possible for me, or Suzanne saying, why not me? Is it possible that maybe soften them slightly and look for evidence in your life where you have done something similar? For example, maybe you want to, I'm totally making this up, leave your full-time job and start your own business. I'm completely making this up. And there's a lot of limiting beliefs around whether that's possible for you. Will I make enough money? Is there anyone out there in the world who's done that and succeeded? Go read stories about them. Go see that it's possible. Think of situations in your life where you really, really didn't want to do something. You were afraid of the change, but you did it. And holy hell, it worked out well. And you found resources you didn't know you had. go find that contrary evidence, build legs under the table to install it in your mind. Because it's just a game. Your survival software is saying, no, you're not good enough, you can't do that. No, not you, leave it to everyone else. It's going to throw that shit at you forever. It's your job to consciously go and find the contrary evidence to slowly build yourself up.
And also be wary of the gentle signs of sabotage that show up, like, oh, but that'll be too much work. Excuse me? That's what happens to a lot of people. Oh,
Yeah.
that sounds like way too much problems. You know, we fool ourselves in so many ways where we fall complacent and comfortable, and there goes your dream. So there's an opportunity cost of not, but I think it's a great question. And Devan, thank you for going there. It's a decision. And
there's another thing that I've seen happen too with this, just so you're aware, Burju, is the first time you go through your life book, you tend to pull out phrases that you hear other people say. Yeah, that can kind of apply to me. Maybe I could do that. Refine those so it's your words, not theirs. And that's kind of what a lot of what we're talking about is taking on other people's beliefs to try them on for size is fine, but you're looking for that bespoke outfit of yours where it's actually designed just for you, in your measurements, in your words, in your depth, rather than taking on somebody else's beliefs. Because it's not a one size fits all thing. It's one thing that I love about the lifebook process is it's the framework, not telling you how to live your life. It's discovering what will excite you. And I like Devan's discussion about decision. For me, the word is commitment. There's a big difference between being interested in it, oh, that would be cool, versus committing to it. I am doing this, which to me is setting a time in the future that I'm going to complete something in a particular way for myself or for someone else. So it is that kind of, I'm interested versus I'm committed. And the biggest, example of that is in the breakfast table, the chicken was interested and the pig was committed. I mean, there is this level of involvement in this. Are you all in or not? Are you gonna, stop at nothing else until that is the belief that you are practicing, not just that you talk about it, that you're practicing that belief.
I want to get to your second question, hun, and then we want to get to Leon and then Aaron.
Actually, this has been so powerful. I need to let this sink in. The other thing is gone. It's not that important. Thank you.
All right,
Thank
honey,
you.
sure. Leon, please.
You're on mute, buddy, I think.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
Wonderful. No, I was actually saying when I raised my hand, my family was not in the car, but I'll proceed. I'm trying to turn on my camera, I'm sorry. So mine is a little different and it's a bit heavier than what was some of the points that were mentioned before in terms of limiting beliefs. Now, what was mentioned before were all more focused on internal items, but mine is a little more in terms of external and having that external having an impact on me. So as you can see, well, maybe you can't if the camera is not on. I'm of African descent.
Hi.
So I live in the US and I came here at 10 years old. And for the first time, I've been hit with racism. And in the US and pretty much around the world, you look a particular way, you're judged even prior to any form of interaction in somewhat of a negative light. So I've had to deal with that for a number of years. And my dad really, growing up with him, has been able to help me kind of mull through it because he offered a way to look at things in terms of, I need you to look at videos that had individuals, actors that looked like you, read books that had individuals that or of African descent that were the stars. So you can see that even though media may portray you in a particular light, it's not true. It's not true. You know, people of African descent, they are good individuals of African descent, just like any other ethnicity. They are individuals that are get to high levels that look like you. So I had a tough time in my earlier years in terms of looking in the mirror and not buying into that belief that because I look a particular way, I'm stereotyped into a particular behavior pattern or stereotyped into an expectation of where I'll be in life. And one of the things I have as a goal is to be a public speaker and a lifeboat coach. And the reason is there's not a lot of individuals that look like me, and I want to be that example. So I love when it was mentioned that why not you? Because it came to a point where I'm from South America, I'm from Guyana, and I'm here in the US, and I'm like, there's no Guyanese that is a public speaker that's on a high level or scale. So I said, I think it's time. I have to be that person, that guy, I guess.
Perfect.
So it really, like I said before, it was one of those beliefs. And of course, like Devan, there's still instances when I'm in the room because Suzanne, we met a couple of months ago in terms of one of these Zoom meetings. And it was Devan and Michael as well. And I mentioned that I'm a nurse in New York and I'm a director of nursing. And I'm one of a few again. And sometimes I go into a room and I'm the only one that looks like me. So it really, sometimes I have to be intentional in terms of not allowing certain things that are portrayed in the media to affect my mental state.
Yeah.
But I wanted to bring that up because sometimes you're being, well, I pause there because I'm making an assumption, but I'm going based on body language. Sometimes you're in an elevator or you're in front of someone and you see the body language give this perception that they're uncomfortable with you, but I still kind of drudge on in terms of I'm going to be my genuine, authentic self and not have someone else's perception of me be the dictator of my response. So this is my last thing I wanted to mention earlier was anytime I feel a reaction to whatever it is, it doesn't even have to be someone being coming across negative, but anytime I have a reaction that I feel that is negative to my morale or belief, that can take me in a negative realm, I guess, what I do is when I feel it, I pause and I try to create a significant gap or distance between that emotion or that thing that's coming my way and the response. And the more I allow time to go between that, maybe minutes, hours, a day, I realize wisdom occurs within that time. So before the response, there's stimulus, and before I respond, I give time because within that time, I can ask for others' advice. I can reflect within myself and give a response. And usually within that response, I can be more wise because I didn't reflexively respond to it in a sense. And that's it. I said it enough there, but I unpacked it enough there, but I just want to share that.
Yes, and good for you. You have that pattern interrupt. So I actually have spent a lot of time in that space. For 7.5, almost 8 years, I worked for the United States Department of Justice as a mediator, mediating racial tension across the East Coast of the United States, on loan to communities throughout the US. So we worked on beliefs even in that time. And I love what you said about not letting what you think others feel about you, affect how you show up in the world. And I think that protective system is so important. So I think you are well on your way to public speaking as well, my friend. Thank you for being here. We love to see you.
Thank you.
I think Aaron has his hand raised. Hi, Aaron.
Hi, good to see you today. Very
Great
nice.
to see you.
Very
Always.
nice. Sorry, I've been cooking a bit meanwhile, but I'm listening attentively. Yes, I just had a kind of thought that kind of leads into a question that I would like to share. In that, coming back to that idea of being committed versus being inspired. I was familiar with Michael's distinction there, and I love that a lot. And I encountered that a lot. And now I'm feeling that where I'm asking myself whether I cannot have both to a certain extent, because there is a very, let's say, there is a very radical belief that I could be believing in. Let's say I'm taking my fitness business as an example, right? Let's say I'm saying, well, I'm making $1 million a year in my business. I'm interested in that, but I can't commit to that yet because I'm not, it's too much, it's too high, right? So I'm questioning whether I could take that as an inspirational belief and then asking myself, okay, what is that radical belief right now that I can commit to in order to get there? Similar to that life vision distillation, right? So I'm questioning what you think around that idea.
Thank you.
Hey, Suzanne, this is a funny one, because when we set these stretch targets and these big goals and these big, hairy, audacious things we're shooting for, and we just have to believe it, you know, in the absence of real world evidence. Yeah, it also has to be believable, so it's, for me, it's a balance. Like if someone said, just believe that you're going to shit $1 billion tomorrow, I'm sorry, I just don't believe that. Nor do I want that, by the way. So it's a balance, and I think you move the goalpost as you grow towards the different goals that you've set. And another thing you could do is set different levels. What is the absolute bare minimum that I literally would rather die than not meet? What's the real number? And then what's the audacious one? You can play with your psyche, but I hear you. It has to be, to believe it, it has to be believable. And that is something that only we can judge for ourselves, and how it sits and how it feels within us when we decide, when we commit.
What did they say? Like, reach for the moon, you'll get the stars, or something. It's like, by having that audacious vision, you get much further. Oh, there you go. Shoot for the moon, even if you miss it. Okay, see? So thank you for the props. And
That was not scripted, folks.
no, guys, we didn't, that was not planned. But that's it. But honestly, forgive me because I'm the radical here, which is so not shocking. I think audacious things are possible. I think radical, audacious change is possible. I am hardcore a believer in each one of us. If we commit, if we believe, if we take massive action. And the world will tell you to be realistic. And I can tell you no one that we admire that's famous ever got anywhere by being realistic. I don't even know if I like realistic people. I'm bad. I know, like I said, I'm like the redhead on fire, but it's true. And I don't have any goals that realistic goals bore me. And for some of you who want more out of life, you might find that you're pretty bored too. And a lot of us, you know, that's something that brings people to the Life Book and personal growth and development community, because they're not challenging themselves to grow. So I like radical, bring it. You know, if you have a vision or something, I mean, wild things have happened. So that's my take on it.
Suzanne, I hope when I said believable, no one heard me say realistic. because I 100% that they're two different things to me. I meant very personally believable for you. The other thing I would throw out there, to your point around people who have put a dent in the universe or really made an impact on the world, having big, hairy, audacious goals, they do have quite a long timeline to them often. And I would say, as humans, we massively overestimate what we can do in a month or a year, but we even more underestimate what we can do in a decade. Literally just this morning, listening to an audiobook I'm reading called Life Force, this latest book from Tony Robbins, is talking about some people who have changed the science community. And this one particular woman who's in the process now of harvesting organs for donation, sets 10-year goals and then breaks them down into 1-year pieces, because the year you can focus on, and then when you get to the 10 years and you look back, it's a miracle. But if you only focus on the 10-year outcome, you're just not going to take action. It's not believable. So yeah, I'm with you, Suzanne. Audacious is good.
And Michael is like Michael is a specialist at helping you break down and having those incremental,
in Lifebook, it's the funnel of focus. It's one of those key components that we have to consistently do in order to, yes, you have this life vision, but as Devan said, it's out there 3, 5, maybe 10 years. But then how do you make it that, where do I need to be in a year to get there? Where do I need to be, if that's where you want to be in a year, where do I need to be at the end of this quarter to get there? And really kind of having to me, it's a lot about systems and tools and monitoring kind of where you're at, but it's also this idea of, yes, you can set that goal way out there and you can change the world one step at a time if you're headed in the right direction, or at least, the basic direction where you want to go. So, and that's why using things like the funnel of focus and an accountability group and some of the other tools that are built in that community are so powerful, because it's not just, hey, I've got the book. Yes. Yay. I'm done. No, that's defining what the life vision is. And then we take it to the next level of breaking it down into pieces and start executing on those in a place where we may be a little bit scared to take that first step or that next step, because that's when we get to those higher level, hugely audacious goals or massively transformational purpose or whatever acronym you want to use towards that. But I think it's also Tony Robbins that says, if you're blocked in accomplishing what you're doing, you need to upgrade your goals. You need to think bigger on what you need to do, because many of the problems that are in your way go away when you actually take that problem of, how do I help one person, is very different than how do I help 100 people, is very different to how do I help 100,000 people. The problems become easier to overcome when you're thinking at scale. So keep that in mind too.
But before all that, guys,
got to believe you can do it.
Exactly. Yes, right on cue. I love when we can finish each other's sentences like that. So this is your time though, guys. I think we're pretty much, we love that you're here. We want to know how we can help you though. And where are those beliefs that you're having trouble installing? Or what are those negative beliefs that keep coming back? If you have anything to share, we're open to you. And do each of you have like a belief or an area you're trying to change your belief in? Can you identify at least one? Devan, what's an area you're trying to change your belief in?
We talked about this a little bit last week, Suzanne, you and me. I'm in the process of shifting this. It didn't become clear to me until December, when I was really struggling, that I believed, historical, past tense, that entrepreneurship is supposed to be a struggle. Did you guys know that? I didn't know that. I guess it's not that surprising when you think of some of the influential figures that are out there talking about the hustle and the grind and the work and all that stuff. It's even at 38 years of age, I'm still impressionable, just like anyone else. it's no wonder that on some level I adopted the belief of, oh, this is supposed to be hard. Well, I'm horseshit. Like, says who? For Gary V, great, that works for him to be a hustler. But are there any entrepreneurs out there doing what they love and it's effortless and easy and enjoyable? Yes, absolutely. So I'm in the process of finding those people and speaking to those people to brainwash me to think otherwise. But that's something I'm working on. But I will say it's been a lot more fun the last couple of months since I realized that, and I've made more money. So something must have shifted, but I'm just being honest. It is something that I am consciously aware of day by day, because I very quickly and easily drop into that grind hustle state, because that was what life was like in the corporate world for me for 15 years. Like,
yeah, you were programmed.
Remember, nothing I did was good enough. So it's very easy for me to shift into that state of I have to grind to be valuable. So that's something that is current and relevant and shifting for me.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Anyone else have a belief they're working to shift? Or anything that keeps coming up?
May I? If there's no one raising
Good.
their hands. Yeah. Okay. So it's also about this whole business thing. I don't have a business background. I am a sociologist, and now I am in the process of building my business with RTT and coaching. And I have the same belief. I just think it has to be hard. I have to, like, you know, and this is blocking me. This was exactly blocked when you were asking earlier, where do you feel it blocked? I'm like, it's the career part, because I see if for some reason I'm not advancing. So what I'm taking from this call today is, why not me? That's something I'm going to write in big letters and hang somewhere. So I think, yeah, that's something I'm taking away. And I see there are some beliefs I want to discover, become aware of, and see how I can transform them. Also with what does the person need to believe, who is a businesswoman, who is working effortlessly, it's easy. And I sometimes, like, also, for example, it's exactly what Devan was saying. I get compliments and I'm like, this cannot be it. I just didn't sweat. It wasn't hard. It's like, there is this, like, I get, oh, this was amazing. This was cool. I'm like, really? Like, it was so easy. This cannot be it. So yeah, these are the,
Yes. So maybe as a screensaver on your phone, right? Start putting these messages in places where it's easy to see, where they show up visibly. And like, oh, what about the phrase making money's easy?
Cool. Goes on the list.
Oh, what about the world needs what I have to share?
Yes, I like that one. So I just want to share with you when I left the corporate world, the first consulting gig I did, which is the first time I ever experienced just directly monetizing experience. You know, how audacious for a human to say, I think I can help you and you'll just pay me for my advice. Like, I was so uncomfortable, and just like, if I wasn't sending emails, editing some kind of report, or putting together a slide presentation, I was a worthless piece of shit and no one would pay me. Like, that is how I was conditioned. And I remember maybe it was the second day I was out with this massive organization, a public company, and it was a really nice first contract to get. I remember sitting in the office with the controller. It was a finance related project. While we're talking, my brain is saying, you haven't given them anything. What are you doing? You can't invoice them for this time. You're a worthless piece of shit. All you've done is discuss stuff. And I'm sitting there like, oh, please don't say that to me, whoever you are. I shit you not. In the middle of that conversation, the guy interrupted himself and he looked me square in the eyes and he said, you know what? Just you being here is so valuable to me.
Oh.
And I looked up and I went, okay, I heard that. Thank you. Shit, I needed that. Good timing. And I'm not going to say there aren't moments now where I question my worthiness and my worth, right? I'm human. But that was pivotal for me to know that just being in the room might be valuable to someone. Wow. Who would have known? So I share that because maybe that's true for you too.
Yeah.
And all of us.
All of us, guys. You bring value by showing up in people's lives. Aaron, I see your hand is raised. Maybe.
Just stirring. Sorry. Yeah. Yes, wonderful. So I was just thinking about how I would like to reframe my experience around beliefs a bit better. And thinking about what universal tool could I always use. And then my mind immediately jumped back to one thing that was said during the call. I don't know who said it. I think it was around that whatever belief you have or that it comes up for you, you can look for contrary evidence of it. So if you have a negative belief and you can see, okay, did someone else do it? And apparently if someone can do it, then I can also do it. And the same way goes the other way, kind of. If you think like, okay, I want to achieve this and this, but you just look for evidence. Did someone do that? Is it human? Like, is it possible? Just physically, then it becomes so much more vivid, I feel like. So that was kind of that thought process for me, that I needed to deal with the beliefs that are inevitably coming up or are there already. So I love that idea, and I just wanted to share that I particularly love that, and that if someone hasn't caught up on this particular point, now.
That definitely was Devan talking about having the table of beliefs and the legs underneath. And sometimes you need to just knock all the legs out and build a new table. And sometimes you've got to reinforce that because there's only one leg underneath there. You have to find additional evidence for you. And that's that introspection time. That's that review time. Sometimes that's working with a therapist or a coach or someone else as well to reinforce that, because I know we have a tendency to look for the negative. Many times our brains are actually focusing for all the things that are wrong, where we failed or where we need to stay away from. But we need to shift that a little bit. Me personally, I'm definitely the optimist. Is I want to find the good in people. I want to find the lesson in that failure. So it's a matter of being able to shift that mindset and being around other people who could do that with you is really powerful. Not giving your beliefs, but believing in you has a huge impact. So I was listening to an interview with Robin Sharma that Suzanne passed on to me recently. And it's one of the wealths that he talks about is the community that you're in. Who are you building around you that's building you up is one of the many wealths on top of just money. So
that's why I love to spend my Saturday here with you guys. This is the right kind of people. And I want to say, though, that questioning of looking for confirmation or real world examples, that's before a decision has been made. Because once a decision has been made, it doesn't matter. You can create something that no one has ever created before and believe that it's meant to happen. And as somebody who, I've had a very non-traditional career, and I've created things in my career that there was no path for. So, I know that's career-wise, but when you know, guys, and your instinct is there for a reason, and instinct and beliefs, there's a connection there, right? So when you ignore your instinct, that's usually something based on faulty beliefs. So I love it. Any other? Yeah, please.
Yeah, Susan, I love what you just said right now, because it brings to mind the question that Natalie asked earlier, like, what do you do when you want to believe that, but the world tells you otherwise. I think that was an important question, Natalie, because I have a friend who goes through that. So I'm constantly trying to motivate her. And I was blessed. Fortunately for me, that I'm blessed to have the mindset where I just don't care what other people think. But then I got to myself, I was thinking to myself, so how did I get here? And just like you said, Susan, there was a moment in time where I just decided that this is not how I'm going to be feeling about myself. This is not what I'm going to think. And from that point forward, I just became obsessed and my whole reality just changed. And now everything I see or do is, it just aligns with that. And anything that doesn't, I just either don't pay attention to it or just I don't associate with people that way. And so I hope this helps you out, Natalie. And I don't know if you guys want to add anything else to it. I just thought that was an important question for everybody to kind of bring up, and based on what you said, Susan. Thank you.
Thank you. Love that.
Yeah, normally what triggers a profound decision within us, and one that just gets locked in, is when we reach a threshold. You know, we get what we tolerate in life. And you know, how many times have you got to the point where you're like, enough, and like, I won't take this anymore, whatever it is, the way someone's treating you, the way you feel when you look in the mirror, whatever it is, that triggers a decision. Often for us, unfortunately, it's because the pain builds up so much, and we will do more to avoid pain than we will pursue pleasure. But what we can do, something we haven't lent on today deliberately, I think, is that if we have a big enough why, we have enough reasons to do something, and we play up the pleasure of doing something as well as the cost of not doing it, it's really hard for your psyche not to just snap and say, okay, and agree to it. That often, for me, helps to push myself over that ledge to make the decision.
Yeah, and I don't know if that makes me a dark energy girl, guys, but like that burn of, imagine if you never move forward. Imagine if you hold still. Imagine if you never take that shot. The opportunity cost of standing still is often the thing that scares us to death. To live with regret, to have never reached our potential, to have never been the first to say, I love you, to have never taken the shot. Guys, that's burn. And I'm not living that way. And I don't want you to live that way, because we deserve to be free. So that might make me the dark energy girl, but we have such short time here. We can become anything if we believe.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for coming and joining us for this conversation. It's been awesome as usual. So thank you for spending this little bit of time with us, actually engaging with us. And I know for me that actually like boosts the energy whenever we're interacting rather than just a bunch of talking heads and having conversations with the three of us. So thank you very much for engaging with us and really kind of digging into this idea of you get to choose your beliefs. You can discover and refine your beliefs to actually be fit for you, because I think that that's really important for more people in the world to realize, because there's more similar in us than is different.
Thank you. This has been so valuable. Thank you.
We love seeing your sweet faces, hearing your voices. Thank you so much for coming, guys. We do this once a month, so we would love to see you again. And for those of you who rolled with us again, thank you for coming back.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All
Bye.
right, have an amazing weekend, guys.